Hi guys! It's been a year now since we received the X1-Carbon 3D printer from Bambu Lab, and since then we have been using it a lot. And because it hit the 1-year mark, we decided to share with you our experience and all the pros and cons of this printer. You want to know all the details? Then stay tuned! Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Rui and this is the Rui Raptor YouTube channel. If you want to help us out, you can by giving this video a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also help by joining our Patreon page or by clicking on any of the affiliate links posted below in the video description. So, since we received the X1-Carbon a little over a year ago, we have been testing and printing a lot with this machine. And since then, we have made a few videos of it. If you didn't see our other videos yet, check the video description below for the links. Bambu Lab's Kickstarter campaign started on May 31st of 2022, and at that time, the company released the X1 and the X1-Carbon. Sometime after, they released the P1P, a printer with the same structure as the X1 series, but with fewer features and therefore at a lower price. At this moment, the X1 is no longer available because the company decided to sell only the fully equipped X1-Carbon, the P1P, and the just released P1S, which is an upgraded version of the P1P. With all of them, it's also possible to add the AMS unit and with it, load up to 4 filaments and print models with different colors. If you want to print up to 16 colors, it's also possible by connecting up to 4 AMS units in parallel. But to connect more than one AMS unit, you need to buy this hub and replace it with the buffer which is normally included. The X1-Carbon is equipped with so many cool features that it screams to be insanely tested, and that's what we did. We printed so much stuff and with different materials, and we are now ready to share our feedback with you guys, including all the pros and cons. But first, let's start by recalling the main features. The X1-Carbon is delivered basically fully assembled. If ordered together with the AMS module, the AMS comes packed inside the printer. Once you take the printer out of the box, you just need to unlock some of the parts of the printer which are locked for transportation purposes. We covered all these details on our first video. However, the locking screws that we show from underneath the printer are no longer used on the most recent ones. Next, we need to connect the display. Last but not least, we connect the AMS and the buffer. If you don't have the AMS unit, you need to attach the filament spool holder at the back. Because the filament spool holder and the AMS buffer are very close to each other, it's not possible to use them both at the same time. When having the AMS unit, most filaments are loaded from there, but there are exceptions, such as TPU filaments, which the manufacturer does not recommend to load them from the AMS, and load them from the external spool instead. In this case, if we want to load a spool with TPU filament, we either remove the buffer, which does not make much sense, or load the spool from a different spool holder. Once all that is done, we can turn the printer on. On the display, we will have the initial instructions that we need to follow to get the machine ready to run. The machine will start with several automatic calibrations. This is one of the main features of this machine, which is the ability of performing many calibrations automatically without any special knowledge from the user side. This is possible thanks to the amazing AI and the sensors included. It can run several calibrations and tests such as bed leveling, flow adjustment, vibration compensation, etc., and adjust itself. The LiDAR sensor can analyze the flow and adjust accordingly. It can also check the first layer and warn you if the layer is not correctly done. During printing, the internal camera can detect issues like spaghetti and warn you as well. The camera can also film the entire print or record a time-lapse movie. The printer is a Core XY machine with a print volume of 256 by 256 by 256 millimeters and a direct drive system. The X-axis runs on lightweight carbon rods. The internal chassis is all metal and the top cover and front door are made from tempered glass. And this is the print head. The cover is secured by magnets, making the access to the internal components super easy. The extruder is dual gear model, and it's located inside the print head. The hot end is all metal, making it possible to print different materials and with temperatures up to 300 degrees C. The nozzles can be hardened or steel. The X1-Carbon comes stock with a hardened one. As for nozzle sizes, it comes equipped with the 0.4mm nozzle, but are also available hot ends with 0.2, 0.6 and 0.8mm nozzle sizes. The nozzle on this one is not easily replaced. That's why Bambu Lab sells complete hot ends instead of nozzles. It's possible to get just the hot end or the complete assembly. And in this case, it's super fast and easy since we only need to remove a couple of screws and disconnect a few cables to do it. Inside the head, there's a small filament cutter. This cutter is activated by the handle. So before unloading the filament, the print head moves to the corner, presses the handle, and the filament tip is cut. This is what we can see from the backside of the print head. On the print head, there is also a LiDAR sensor that will scan the filament lines and layers. For layer cooling, there's a fan here inside the print head and also a big auxiliary one on the left side of the chamber. All the electronics are designed by Bambu Lab, including the stepper drivers. After removing the printer's back panel, we can see a few more boards, the power supply, and the chamber fan. The print bed moves on 3 lead screws. On the bottom side, we can see the Z stepper motor and the belt that drives the 3 lead screws. On each lead screw, there's a piezo sensor that acts like end stops. The machine can also do bed leveling using the nozzle as probe. The print surface is magnetic and has 2 sides. Each side is used for certain type of filaments and temperatures. The magnet is very strong and works well. However, we think that at the corners could be a little bit stronger. The only downside is the lack of a good alignment pins for the placement of the print surface. This small part of the print surface is used by the nozzle. Before running the leveling sequence, the nozzle will heat up, and after a small purge, it will sit here and starts to cool down. This avoids filament leakage while cooling, which could then mess with the leveling. This area is also responsible for scratching the heat bed if we are not careful. Bambu Lab included a glue stick as they recommend to always add glue on the print surface. At the back is the purge chute. Inside and at the corner of the purge chute is a small nozzle tip wiper. The printer will move the nozzle a few times before printing to clean the nozzle tip. The filament remains from the purges will be thrown out through there and out the back of the printer. These filament remains will fall down and spread all over your table or floor, so it's better to get something to collect these remains. There are great solutions online to print, but if you don't have any of them yet, you can use a spool box as it will work nicely. Also at the back is the air filter. This filter can be easily replaced. And at the left side is the internal camera and light. The display is this 5-inch high-resolution touch display. You can tilt it a little bit up or down, and it has a microSD card slot here at the right side. The menus are simple and user-friendly, but probably for most users, the interaction will mostly be done through the computer. As for software, Bambu Lab has its own slicer called Bambu Studio. This slicer is open source and it has very nice features. It is very user-friendly and it comes with ready-to-use profiles for other printer brands and also for different filaments. Some of the nicest features might be the possibility to choose the location of the seam by painting the area where we want it to be, the ability to paint the areas where we want and where we don't want supports to be generated, the tools to paint a model and this way easily convert a single color model into a multicolor one, the auto calculation for the purge amount when printing with different colors, the possibility to directly load step files as we would load any STL file, and the multibed so that we can save the complete project with all the parts for it. With the software, we can also control the printer, get the live feed from the internal camera, access the saved videos, and send the files to print. The slicer was updated several times through the year and has been improved a lot since then, with a lot more features. They also have an app for the smartphone called Handy Studio. With it, you can control the printer and also check what's happening inside with the internal camera view. Using the cloud service, you can access the printer from anywhere. The firmware update on these machines is also very easy to do. We know when a new version is available from the printer's display, from the slicer, and from the app. If we decide to go ahead with the update, we just click on the upgrade button and the machine will do everything by itself. We notice the effort from the manufacturer to keep improving by releasing several firmware and software updates. When comparing the first software version that we tested when we received the printer with the latest version that is now available, we see how much work has been done. In terms of test prints and print results, the first model we printed was one of those that came already sliced and stored in the printer's internal memory. The first one we tried was the Benchy that prints in just 17 minutes. It's recommended to keep the front door open when printing PLA to improve the quality, especially for the overhangs. And to help keeping the chamber cool when printing with PLA, you can leave the bed cold as it sticks perfectly well. However, Bambu Lab recommends to always use glue to help the adhesion. And this is how the Benchy turned out. It looks very good, especially considering that it only took 17 minutes to print. Since there is no bin to collect the purges of filament and there is no deflector to redirect them down and they end up flying away, we printed these two parts next. These were printed with ASA filament and with the stock profiles from the slicer. We only need to add a few magnets and attach them back there. The only concern is that we need to keep an eye and avoid the purges to pile up. We then tested printing this model with different materials. We used ABS, PETG, TPU, and carbon. Again, all of them were printed using the stock profiles without tweaking. And even so, they turned out okay. With a little bit of tweaking, the result can be even better. For TPU, as we mentioned before, the manufacturer recommends not to use the AMS with this type of filament. So we loaded the filament directly from the back of the printer. Printing multicolor models is very easy with the AMS. The first multicolor print was again with one of the already sliced models that we can find in the internal memory. Since the file is already sliced, the slots and colors are indicated on the display. We only need to place the spools with the colors we want on the corresponding slots. This one was printed with 2 different colors of PLA filament and turned out really nice. Together with the spare parts, there are a couple of blades for us to use with this spatula. For any multicolor model, we just need to load the model on the slicer, select the correct slots for each color, and hit print. We can even turn single color models into multicolor with the painting tools. When changing between colors, the printer purges some amount of filament to avoid color mixing. The amount of purge can be defined for each color transition, which means we can have a bigger purge when changing from a dark color to a lighter color, and less purge when changing from a light color to a dark one. If the purges amount are not correctly set, we will end up with color contamination, as we can see on this cupcake. The slicer has the option to automatically calculate the purge amount based on the color defined. This is a great feature and saves us a lot of time from tweaking all the amounts. And here are a few examples of the prints we have made. So far, the AMS unit has been working great. We printed many models with 4 different colors, and the result was awesome. We only had an issue with the filament that broke inside the unit, but it was not the unit's fault. Recovering the bit of filament from the inside of the AMS unit is very simple. We just remove these 2 screws, pull the PTFE tube out, and lift the base to get access to the internal PTFE tubes. Lots of people talk about the filament waste that this printer does, but when using the AMS unit, this is necessary to guarantee that there will be no color mixing when changing colors. In case we need to print the same model multiple times, printing all of them at the same time will reduce the waste because the amount of purges will be the same as when printing just one. When printing with a single color, there's also a bit of filament waste because the printer needs to make a small purge to make sure the new filament coming out from the nozzle is not contaminated with previous used filaments. This is something that needs to be done, and we don't consider this to be a negative point. This machine is capable of reaching high speeds and accelerations and still maintain a good print quality. This has a major impact on the print time. We made several big models that would take a very long time to print on other printers, but on this machine they took less time to complete. However, not everything are roses. When printing areas with overhangs, the speed needs to be reduced. This can be defined in the slicer, and we can tweak the speed by angles. As for the noise it makes while printing, it's not the loudest machine we have tested, but it does a bit of noise. It's worse if you run the printer with the door open. But the loudest is when the machine is running the automatic vibration compensation calibration. However, it's possible to make it less noisy by selecting the silent option while printing. This will also reduce the speed and increase the print time. Now let's talk a little bit about the issues we had with this machine after 1 year of use. Since we received the machine, we got some errors on the screen. One of them was fail to home the Z, which was caused by a bit of filament purge that somehow got stuck next to the lead screw and this way preventing the Z to go all the way up. We also got the error that the cutter handle was stuck. We got this error after 700 hours of printing, which include many multicolor prints. Every time there's a filament unload, and for each multicolor print this is done so many times, this small blade cuts the filament so it's easier to unload. When we got this error, we replaced the blade and this fixed the issue. We also got the message that the LiDAR lenses need cleaning. And this was as simple as passing a Q-tip with alcohol on the lenses, and that was it. In the beginning, we used to get a first layer issue error on the printer when printing with black filament. For this, we just hit ignore and resume because every time the first layer was okay. Lately, we haven't been getting this error anymore. Maybe the first layer inspection was improved with the latest firmware updates. Each error is well described on the display, and for most of them, an explanation and possible causes are available on the manufacturer's wiki page. In there, we can find lots of information about errors, maintenance, upgrades, etc. The only major issue we had was actually with the cold side of the print surface. This cold side has a sticker. And with just a few prints on this, it started to get air bubbles underneath, which is not good. We replaced the sticker once, and a few prints later, the second sticker started to get air bubbles as well. It seems that the sticker can't hold good enough to resist the bending of the plate and the removal of those parts that stick a little harder. On Bambu Lab's wiki page, they have a workaround for when this happens. Our workaround was to use the engineering side instead. Problem solved. And that was it. All this time, these were the only problems we had so far. One thing we often do is regular maintenance. Keeping the machine clean, especially the carbon rods, and all the bearings and lead screw lubricated is very important. Okay, now let's check all the pros and cons of the X1-Carbon. For the positive side, we have the X1-Carbon comes almost fully assembled and it's ready to print in just a few minutes. This printer does a great job with all the self-tests and automatic calibrations. It works so well that we can take the printer out of the box and start printing without the need of any manual adjustment or calibration. The printer is fully closed, which makes it great to print with many different materials, especially with those that require a hot environment. The AI on this one is also one of its biggest features. It can calibrate the printer by itself, detect printing issues, and so on. It's equipped with many cool sensors, including a LiDAR sensor to help with the filament flow calibration and first layer inspection. The components and overall printer quality looks very good. It's equipped with an internal camera and light. It has a magnetic steel sheet for easy removal of prints, and we can print on both sides. It's possible to add AMS unit and print with different colors. For each printer, you can connect up to 4 AMS units and print up to 16 colors. And it can also print a lot faster when comparing with other printers on the market. Bambu Lab also has a slicer software that is very easy to work with. The included profiles in the slicer work reasonably well too. There's also a smartphone app where we can access the printer remotely, including outside our network. There has been several software and firmware updates with correction or improvements and are expected more to come. One of the things that the X1-Carbon can do, and which is rarely mentioned, is the filament backup feature. This means we don't need to be concerned anymore if a certain spool has enough filament for the print we will about to start. We can peacefully load that spool that is almost over and a second spool for backup, and the printer will switch automatically when the first one runs out. One other thing that the X1-Carbon can do is to dry filaments. If you want to remove humidity from your spool, you can place it inside the printer and turn the dry filament feature on. The printer will heat up the heat bed with a certain temperature and for a certain time according to the type of filament you are placing inside. The print quality is very good, and for all the filament types that we tested. The only difficulty is probably printing overhangs, especially when printing with high speeds. For the negative side, we have the price can be considered a bit high, but in our opinion, it's worth the investment because of everything this printer is equipped with and also its performance. The print volume is 256 by 256 by 256 millimeters. It's not bad, but that area can be reduced if you want to use the flow calibration. And there's also a bit of space at the front left corner for the filament cutter that you can only use if you disable this feature and not use the AMS unit. The full Z height is also compromised if you use the Z hop feature. It would be nice to see a Bambu Lab printer with a bigger print volume. The sticker on the cold side of the print surface easily gets air bubbles, which can ruin the bottom side of the prints. The placement of the print surface on the bed is not foolproof. The alignment pins are too small and it's easy to get the surface misaligned when not careful. The magnet strength at the corners of the print surface could be a little bit stronger than it is. The printer does not include the filament purge deflector and bin to collect the filament remains. The AMS unit does not support every kind of filament spool. Small ones or wider ones cannot be used. If we want to use the filament on these spools, we need to wind them onto a compatible spool or print adapters like this example for the Filament PM spools. The external spool holder location is not ideal since it's too close to the filament buffer. The X1-Carbon could have the on and off switch at the front instead of the back for easy access. The printer does a nice job to detect first layer issues as well as other issues while printing. It can display the warning or error on the screen and send the message to the slicer and the app. The downside is that there is no sound warning on the printer to alert the user in case he misses the display or the app messages. Since the printer is a little bit heavy and has this flat shape, it would be nice to have some sort of handles to help pick the printer up. And that's it, you guys. What do you think about this printer? Is the X1-Carbon a revolution on the 3D printing market? Feel free to share your comments and experience of this printer below on the comment section. Thanks for watching. We will see you guys next time. Bye!